Welcome back to the Igniting Dreams Within podcast, where we solve life and business problems that transform businesses and individuals into happier and fulfilled ones. Welcome to this special edition of the podcast. On this podcast, you get to hear my mentee go on a platform, my platform, Energy and Choice FM, and where he shares his message about making things happen. Life does not get better by chance. Life does not get better by luck. You are the one who needs to intentionally and actively make your life happen for you. And this is a special young man for me because I mentor him and I even left him to co-author, to run my show on Radio TEF. And now he's the one who's heading that show. And once in a while, wherever I'm given an opportunity, I believe that the greatest act of mentorship is not to teach the mentee what I think that they need, but the greatest act of a mentor is to give their mentees the platforms and the opportunities to explore, sharpen, and develop their gift. And so when a mentee comes to me saying that, Mr. Mamabolo, can you please mentor me? He comes knowing and having had discovered his gift that I want to speak, I want to coach, I want to train individuals. But they lack the platform. Yes, they need the experience, but more than the experience, they need me to open doors for them. And this is what I do with my mentees. And if you're listening to this podcast and you're saying, Mr. Mamabolo, I also want you to mentor me and open platforms for me and give me my opportunity to shine, use the contact details, contact me, and I'll get you on board. Only serious people who are willing to pay the price of mentorship. Not only the financial price, but the commitment price. I am not interested in people who are not serious about taking their lives and their craft to the next level. So enjoy this podcast and make things happen in your life, in your business, in your family life, and with your children. Enjoy the episode.
Those who usually manage to achieve their life goals are believed to have an ability to make necessary things happen by taking the necessary measures. To join us in conversation as we talk about making things happen, our guest tonight on Motivation Monday is entrepreneur and motivational speaker Teboho Kwetempane, who's in for Ebenezer Mamabolo. You're more than welcome to join us in the conversation. Our WhatsApp text line is 079 295 1212. That is 079 295 1212, and our SMS line is 47861. Start each SMS with the key letters EFM. Each SMS is charged at R1.50. Teboho, good evening and welcome to Conversations.
Good evening to the listeners and to you, the host of Wonderful Energy FM.
How are you?
I'm good, and yourself?
I'm well, thank you.
Awesome.
When I learned of the topic for tonight's motivation, make things happen, the first thing that came to mind was, you remember that video that trended of that young woman who was talking about the pots and saying, I made the things that made the pot to be done.
Yeah, I still remember it. It was trending, it was, but I like the fact that she had the guts at least to go on air and, publish such things. So we need people who can make those pots happen too.
Right. So when we talk about making things happen, what do we actually mean?
Okay, thank you. First of all, when we talk about making things happen, let me start off by this quote by Jim Lovell, who once said, there are people who make things happen, there are people who watch things happen, and there are people who wonder what happened. To be successful, we have to be people who make things happen. In other words, there are people who are spectators and there are people who are partakers. In other words, there are people who take action, initiative. They see that there is a gap in the economy. They see that there is a gap in their community, maybe socio-economic issues, as we can relate, to the load shedding. They don't just watch things happen, but they ask themselves, how can I contribute? So by making things happen, it is simply saying that get off your seat and do something. That's what I'll be focusing on.
When you say do something, does that then mean it doesn't really matter what you're doing as long as there's a benefit to it?
The thing is, you have to be specific. You can't just do everything. As a farmer, mind you, I've learned one thing. When you get into a garden, you find that weeds and your particular crop are growing together. Now, if you don't define what you are really planting there, what you expect out of it, you will just let them grow together. But one thing I've come to realize is that weeds, they often take up most of the space. They take up the nutrients, they take up everything, and then at the end of the day, you don't have anything to survive on. So in a nutshell, what I'm trying to say is that once you are clear about what you want, it clarifies your purpose. So you don't just do anything. Just because we say make things happen, we're not just saying do anything, commit crime, all those things. We're saying do positive things happen.
Let's try see if we can link one's characteristics to what would then ensure that they are clear with their plans for the future and so forth. Just as you said, that one needs to be purposefully clear. What sort of characteristics define a person who makes things happen?
First of all, people who make things happen, they are confident. Now, confident in the sense that they believe in their dreams. They believe in what they want to achieve. They believe beyond even reasonable doubt. People, they can tell them that, you know what, it doesn't matter. You know, in South Africa, you can see that load shedding has taken over and so forth. Sorry to use that example time and over again, but it is the current reality. But they look at the possible solutions. Those people, they tell themselves that if only I can have an opportunity to address that matter, it doesn't matter how long it takes. I will look into maybe renewable energy sources, and then I will pursue that. The other characteristics that they have, they are not afraid to get their hands dirty. They get things done by all means necessary. You see, people who have this make things happen attitude, they look at the situation and ask themselves, what can I do better? What can I do? Even if people, they say that no one in your family has ever done it, they tell themselves that, okay, I'll be the first person to get a degree. For instance, myself, you know, people, they discouraged me from time to time, telling me that, no, man, you're old, you're doing this and that, you know, because people, they are always concerned with the time, the chronological time, but they are not concerned with your vision, with your dream, with everything that you want to achieve in life. So these people, they are not afraid to get their hands dirty. They are not afraid of failure. And then the other characteristics that they have, they don't talk. They just do. It doesn't mean that there are people that are moody or rude or something like that. They are defined by this notion that action speaks louder than words. They allow their results to speak on their behalf. That is why I said that at the beginning, that they are partakers, these people. They don't just watch things happen, but they make things happen. They are unlike the two groups whereby Jim Lovell rightfully said that there are those who even wonder what happened. And the other characteristic is that they have a healthy sense of agency. You know, if you go into the Holy Book, it talks about a young man called David who once said, teach us to number our days so that we may gain a heart of wisdom. Once you can understand that each and every day when you wake up, you get closer to your grave, that is whereby you will start to value time. You will start to value whatever that you do. You won't live like an idle person, idle-minded person, but you will ask yourself, what can I do today to make my life and those of my loved ones better? So the other characteristics that I would like to emphasize about this particular group of people in a nutshell is that they don't wait for opportunities to present themselves. They create them. There's a notion that you snooze, you lose. So they don't just wait for someone maybe to change in the cabinet and so forth and say that, oh, now my life will be better. Oftentimes we know that at the beginning of the year, we hear a lot of people saying that, you know, this is going to be my year. The question is, what are you going to do in that year? Because for the 31st of 2020, you know, December, for it to end well for you, the question shall be, what have you done during the course of the year? So there is no year that becomes better. It is you who becomes better. So the other characteristics that they have is that they are resilient. You know, poverty and struggle only motivate and inspire them to never give up, to keep on going. Those are the ingredients that they know that they strengthen them. And remember, life happens, hey? Life is not a smooth ride. Life has its many obstacles. We may be talking like this. Someone right now is listening to me at the hospital and so forth and asking themselves, How is this relevant to me? If you have a strong enough reason, you can get up out of that bed and continue with your life. You see, I often watch people that we often call disabled. I've learned that the true disability is a mindset. It's not necessarily physical. We have lawyers that are physically blind, but they can stand in court and defend your case. There are people that do not have limbs, but those people today, they are CEOs of big companies and so forth. There are people in government leading us in sign language. So you can just imagine, you have a tongue, you have a voice, but all you do, you spend it talking about negative things, demoralizing other people, because you haven't found your purpose just yet. And then lastly, they eat, sleep, and breathe their dreams. I call this the crazy group. These are not normal people. These are people that, they often ask themselves a question. If people are going left, why can't I go right? They always want to go the opposite direction. When people are going right, they go left. Not because they are lost, but because they see something that other people, they do not see. Just like a vision. A vision is a picture of what you see alone, but you want it to materialize. Look at this studio. Someone pictured it, but others, they just saw a building. But someone saw a studio. Someone saw people with their career in here. Someone saw people coming in here, motivating people, encouraging people, challenging the nation. So that is what that is what defines people who make things happen.
I wonder what then, Teboho, hinders just about every individual to have this sense of urgency, to have this vision and so forth. We'll quickly talk about how one must move from being a spectator to being a partaker. But what is your diagnosis? What would hinder one from having a sense of urgency, from dreaming and acting on their dreams, and from just basically acting on everything that they would like to see them doing in future?
First of all, there's a saying in Africa that says, if there is no enemy within, the enemy outside can do us no harm. In other words, if you do not have a critic inside of yourself, other people's opinions, they do not matter. That is one of the things that is killing many people, because they want to be validated by a lot of people, and they end up becoming lost. Just because someone says that you're not beautiful, it's a lie. It is, but to them it may be true. But if you look deep within yourself, I often reference the Holy Bible, whereby it says that we were wonderfully and fearfully made. So once you can understand that is why, if you can check philosophers, they often speak of affirmations. Those are powerful things. You tell yourself that I am beautiful, I am fearfully and wonderfully made, I can make it, I am a model. Even in South Africa, a lot of people, they say that no, why is she modeling without any hair that is bought? She just used her natural hair. And then look at her today. The whole world is celebrating her because she had confidence. The first point that you spoke about when we talk about making things happen.
All right. I want us to then swiftly move into the transition from being a spectator to being a partaker. Is it easy for starters?
No, it is not easy. Because remember, life is not about perfection, but life is about progress. And progress is a process. So you cannot just wake up in the morning and then all of a sudden you are, conquering the world. You have to first conquer yourself. You have to first decide, for instance, maybe you're a person that does not read. You have to start, with that first page, that first word. You have to decide. You have to ask yourself a question that, what can I do differently? Because there's a saying that, insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, but expecting different results.
On Motivation Monday tonight, our guest is Teboho Kwetempane, who's standing in for Ebenezer Mamabolo, and we're talking making things happen. Our WhatsApp text line is 079-295-1212. 079-295-1212. You can also send us an SMS to 47861. Do start your SMS with the short code EFM. Each SMS is charged at R1.50. We continue with this motivation after the break.
Conversations, Mondays to Thursdays from 6 to 8 p.m. on Energy FM and Choice FM.
11 minutes to 8. This is Conversations on Energy FM 102.1 and Choice FM 101.1. On Motivation Monday tonight, our guest is entrepreneur and motivational speaker Teboho Kwetempane, and we're talking about making things happen. Should you wish to join in the conversation, our WhatsApp text line is 079 295 1212 079 295 1212. You can also send us an SMS to 47861. Do start your SMS with the short code EFM. Each SMS is charged at R1.50. Because we've already spoken about how it's important that people must move from being spectators to being partakers, I wonder, because you seem to love philosophy, Teboho, should one completely move from being a spectator and become a partaker? And I'm asking you this because I understand there's also importance in learning from your peers. And the only way for you to learn, perhaps it could be that you're learning from the outside as opposed to being within the establishment or something of that nature. Yes.
Yeah, it is very important for us to understand that here we're dealing with reality. You know, there's a point whereby after you have read or after maybe you have heard such words, you then look at your life to ask yourself questions that, is this applicable? You know, in farming, what we have realized that as we study, we can study about the crop, its seasons and so forth, requirements and so forth. But then in the real world, is it applicable? Now, from moving from being a spectator to being a partaker, it requires also that, because the first point that I want us to look at is you must identify your behavior. You must identify the fact that you are a spectator or a partaker. Because if you don't identify that, you will never transition. You will never change. Just like a farmer, you know, I love farming so much. That's why I make that example. Once went to his friend, and then he found that the dog was busy howling the whole day. Asked the farmer, his fellow friend farmer, he asked him, what is going on with the dog? He said, well, look at where it's sitting. And then he found that it was seated on top of a nail. And then he said, why doesn't it get up? It's old enough. He said that, you know, this dog is a representation that some people in life, even when they are being hurt, they like to remain where they are getting hurt. So until they identify that this is painful, they will never change. Just like taking someone to rehab, until they admit that they have a problem, they'll keep on relapsing. So it begins with self-identity. And then the next thing is that you must decide that I'm tired of this, enough is enough, now I want to move, now I want to be a better person. I don't want to keep on talking about the same thing, that this is my year, I'm going to do this and that, because the other problem is that you are making announcement to people who are not supporting you in your endeavor. So you have to be careful who you make announcement to. If maybe, for instance, you want financial information, go to the bank. What are you doing going to the plumber? You know, relevancy is key. And then the other thing is that you must associate with the latter group, the partakers, people you know who are energetic, moving about, doing this and that. Ask them, how do you do it? Why do you wake up each and every morning and go and sell the chicken straws, aka Malana, you know? So what do you do? How do you do it? You see, why are you selling a maize meal? You know, I mean, you could just stay at home and wait maybe for government to give you social grant. But why do you wake up in the morning? And then once you tap into their mindset, once you see what they are doing, you also become encouraged. And then there is this technique. Briefly, I won't talk about it much, but for the sake of time, I believe that next time we'll dive into it. It is called the Kaizen technique. It is a Japanese technique. It is made up of 4 simple stages. You plan, you do, you evaluate, and you act. But the action in this course, we're talking about narrowing your focus. Hence I spoke about being in the garden, whereby you select what it is that you want out of it all. And then lastly, you must love what you do. Now, love, you know, in this month, it's defined differently for people. People, they are looking at love from a romantic perspective. But even work, it requires love. because that passion, it will keep you going even when the salaries are not coming. Even when you see that, the company maybe is on the verge of being liquidated and so forth, you keep on pushing. Like one major company, it is said that in their first year, their first 12 months, they only sold one bottle of cool drink. Today, they are 200 years old, and each and every one of us has drank their product. I won't mention their name, but I know that you already understand who I'm talking about. So that is what you do to transition.
I want us to work on a checklist so that by the time we're done with the session, because the common understanding is that when one is listening to Motivation Monday, they always have a notepad. People even do that on their phones now. I want us to do a small and easygoing checklist to ensure that one successfully does the transition. They stop announcing to the wrong crowd, which you've cautioned against, and they start actually acting. What should one do?
First of all, look at the people that you're associated with. You see, there is nothing that you can change that you don't know. Until you are aware of the influence of the people that are surrounding you on a day-to-day basis, then you cannot change. That's the first step. The second thing that you can do, get a notepad. Get a notepad. I always advise people that whatever knowledge that you are gaining, it may be through radio, it can be through social media and so forth, write it down. Look at how is it influencing your life? How is it impacting your life? That is why there's a saying that, the faintest writing is sharper than, is better than the sharpest mind. So whatever you write down, it's powerful, because whatever you don't, you forget easily. So the other thing that you need to do, you need to seek advice. You need to go to the people who have done what you are trying to do, because the aim, remember, of this discussion is to make things happen. But if you have never seen someone doing that thing, it becomes more difficult. But it doesn't mean that you can't be the first one, you can't be the pioneer. But then in that case, first start with the information that is available. You are living in the world of social media. We are living in the world of internet. We are living in the world of websites and so forth. So information is at your disposal. Begin there, And then the other thing that you really, really, really need to do, sit down with yourself, make a list of achievements and failures. But the most important column is the one in between, lessons learned. It will take you far.
This issue of the importance of the written word and what one must use, I want to find out, what is it with you in terms of the advice that you're giving? Can one use a pencil, one that they can erase, or do you also believe there's power in writing with a pen because it brings about a sense of permanence?
A pen is better. A pen is better. However, people, they prefer different things. As long as you will not forget. But a pencil, I wouldn't advise it that much. But a pen, it gives you that sense of, whenever you look at that thing, it pushes you. It says that I must get this done. So that sense of permanency is very critical and it's very important. And to our listeners, like I said, life is not about perfection, but life is about progress, about constant improvement, about challenging yourself first, because you are your greatest competition before you can compete with others.
And one must be the greatest critic as well. That's one of the things you spoke about. Ebenezer says, good evening and thank you for this powerful show. A time comes in our lives when we need to stop watching and cheering for those who are living the dreams we wish to live and start pursuing our dreams and making our dreams come true. As we continue with 2020, let's go out there and make our dreams happen. Thank you for this empowering show. What Ebenezer is talking about, for people to stop, I guess, admiring those that are living their dreams or their ideal lives, it goes back to what I spoke of earlier, the issue of inspiration. How do you strike a balance? Because you can't exactly live in isolation and not watch what your peers and those that inspire you are doing. But at the same time, you don't want to spend a lot of time fixated on that which they're doing and not acting on making yourself better. How do you strike a balance?
The secret ingredient there is trying. You see, if you read a recipe book, it doesn't necessarily give you food. But once you put those ingredients together, you try them out, then you get a cake, you get a meal, and you get all those things. But at first, it might not be nutritious and so forth, and it might not necessarily give you the results that you want. But the more you keep on trying, I'm telling you, you will definitely make things happen.
What is our quote of the week?
The quote of the week is from Les Brown. I just want to leave you with it. It says that life is a fight for territory. Once you stop fighting for what you want, what you don't want will automatically take over. Do something.
Your contact details, Teboho Kwetempane.
Okay, to our listeners, they can find me on WhatsApp 061 489 6310. They can alternatively find me on Facebook. Is Teboho Samuel Kwetempane, but this Teboho is with an H.
It's not with a G.
No.
Okay.
No. Yeah, that one.
I wonder what that means. I really wonder what that means. Thank you so much for coming through and sharing insight with us.
No, thank you so much.
That is our time. Coming up next on Energy FM and Choice FM is Hagi Liboro. Thanks to the show's content producer Mami Morajwa and our technical producer Emmanuel Gwinda. I am Rebecca Pala. Enjoy the rest of your evening.
Thank you for tuning in to this brilliant episode of Making Things Happen. As you go about fulfilling and pursuing your dreams in 2020, don't wait for anyone to make anything happen for you. Go out there and actively make your own life, make your own choices, and make it all happen. It's in you. You've got everything. You've got the power, the ability to make everything happen in your life. Don't forget, if you want me to mentor you, if you want me to coach you, the contact details are below. Book me as a speaker, book me as a mentor, and book me as a coach with the contacts below. Thank you for tuning in. I'll see you next time.